chef-inspired flatbreads, and more at your local lodge.
It's officially time for Zero Rez's annual summer sale. Take advantage and get 15% off all cleaning services. Just mention me, Elijah Campbell, on 107.5 The Game to secure this deal today or book online at ZeroRezColumbia.com.
And now, traffic sponsored by Wetzel's Automotive on the Game Network.
And one last look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Friday morning. A couple accidents to report, one at Garner's Ferry Road and Congaree Road. Another one at 601 near Bluff Road, and then St. Anne's Road near Tram as well. So be careful as you're making your way through those areas. Today's weather, high of 92 with another chance for some evening storms. Pretty much the same throughout the weekend as well. Tomorrow's high 94 and Sunday's high of 91. That's traffic and weather from Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on the Early Game. Nine o'clock on your Friday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. It's Ed and Jack Veltri with you as always. Preston has dubbed today Media Day Eve because, of course, we're not going to have shows tomorrow and Sunday because next time we're going to be broadcasting will be from Media Days. Radio Row coming up on Monday and get to hear from all the coaches and really get on the fast track to the season starting.
You excited for it?
I'm excited. First time going. You've been the past couple of years, right?
I've only been once.
Only been once? Okay.
Went in 23.
Was that Nashville?
It was in Nashville.
Okay.
So this will be my first time going to Atlanta, which will be fun. Well, been to Atlanta, but for this.
I'm excited for it. Again, there's media personalities from all over the country here. They sent out the thing yesterday of filling out okay, here's ESPN talent that's going to be available. Which ones would you like to have on your show? And I clicked all of them, so I'm hoping we get some good guests coming up next week. And, of course, all the Dr. Pepper we can drink, which I'm very much looking forward to. I said at the end of the last show, I'm going to hopefully come up with a good ranking system by the end of next week of, tier 1 to, lower tier Dr. Peppers, depending on how many I can try, and hopefully have a good quality list by the end of the week.
So are there different Dr. Pepper, flavors?
Oh, there's tons.
Yeah, so you got Diet Dr. Pepper, you got Dr. Pepper.
You got Original Diet, you got cream soda.
Oh, my gosh.
There's a coconut cream, strawberries and cream, cherry. There's a lot of different obscure flavors of Dr. Pepper out there. If you go to a freestyle machine at Firehouse Subs, they have a lot of them in there. But yeah, I'm intrigued to take down as much as I can next week.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing all about it.
Now, have you decided what time you're leaving on Monday to get there?
All right, so this is a funny story. So yesterday, I got an email yesterday that local media is going to be talking with Beamer at 8:30 on Monday.
Wow, okay.
So
that's early.
That has changed my plans significantly. I should have known that too because I honestly forgot that they do that with the local media before the event gets going.
Sure.
So early in the morning. So I'm going to probably be looking into booking a hotel. Now, we'll see. I got to make sure it's all good with my boss.
Yeah.
Waiting to hear back. So, but anyway, yesterday I did that, started looking at some hotels, and then it hit me. I'm like, I have a cousin that lives in Atlanta.
There you go.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to check in. We talk enough to where it's it'd be probably cool.
Yeah.
And then I got a text back. She has cut her lease in Atlanta.
No. Yikes.
Right. Literally, how bad of timing is that? So I'm back to square one. And
I'll have to ask my parents about it, but if you want to crash at my parents' house with me for Sunday night, you're more than welcome.
Honestly, For real?
Now, you'd have to drive in Monday morning, so
that's
deal with a little
fine.
bit of traffic, but it's a lot easier driving 30 miles than the 200 between here and Atlanta.
Shoot, let me know about that. I will actually take you up on that if that's okay.
Yeah, I'll check in with them later and let you know.
Yeah, that would be that would be easier than scrambling for a hotel.
A hotel in Atlanta, and I don't know if you're aware.
Yeah.
Beyonce's in town this weekend.
Oh my God! What?
My wife is on the way to Atlanta right now to go see the show tonight with her sister. So I would imagine hotels are not cheap.
Dude, no kidding. Oh my God! I was looking yesterday. I mean, there was some under 200 and stuff. Like surprisingly for Monday with the home run derby and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Beyonce in town too. That's
there's also a couple WWE events in town too. It's a very busy weekend in Atlanta. So I'm sure a lot of the places are pretty full.
Yeah, Atlanta's going to be a zoo.
Yeah,
this weekend. So
but we're right in the middle of it. So that should be fun. But I'm looking forward to that. And again, we'll have plenty of content for Media Days coming up next week. Happy College Football 26 Day for the full release. Because they had like the early version that people got to play this week. I've said already, I'm holding off. I'm still trying to finish up my Dynasty in 25 before moving on to 26. So I may get that like later down the line.
I'm going to pick it up at some point. I'm not as like, it's not that I'm not eager about it. I just don't have the same vibe of like, oh my God, college football guy. Like at this time last year, I didn't have a PS5. I didn't have any of this. So I went out, scrambled, got the PS5, the game, all this stuff, and I played it for a few months, and then I kind of just have not played anything since. So I'll definitely get the game at some point, but the energy for me is not the same right now. But maybe it will be once the game gets going.
And like I'm one of those people. The bells and whistles are cool, but I'm really focused on the gameplay. Like because I lock in on like, all right, what plays am I calling here? How am I going to get this first down on third? How am I going to stop my opponent on third down? Like the minutia of the other things kind of fades into obscurity when I'm actually playing the game because I'm locked in on like, I don't care what the teams are wearing, what the stadiums look like. I'm focusing on actually trying to win the game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm hoping the game is a lot better in some regards this year. Like, for instance, like, not that it's cool or whatever, but like, I don't want to see, just throw a ball up to, for instance, South Carolina, Nick Harbor, and that'd be your cheat code to win games. Like, make it a little bit tougher with the DBs and stuff. I get the speed as a factor, but that's one thing. And I think just a few other things, like some of the interceptions I would throw last year, and maybe it's just me sucking at the game, I'm not sure, but I would throw the ball perfectly, I feel like, and put it on a dot, and then it just gets picked off. It was, oh my God. I mean, it got to a point where like you want to throw your controller through the TV.
So the first season that I played in Dynasty, I was a mess. I couldn't stop anybody. I was struggling on offense. I figured out to just do short throws. So like crossing routes, dump off.
That's the way to go.
I keep everything within like 5 to 7 yards of the line of scrimmage because usually, especially with crossing routes, you got somebody that's running free that you usually can get in space and get extra yards. Like I literally do that and then run out of the spread or run from the shotgun. I run like maybe like 10 to 12 different plays.
Yeah,
and it wins me games. So that's what I do.
No, if that's what you're going for, then yeah, absolutely. But again, it's those deep throws. Yeah. I don't know what it is. They always seem to get picked off. So that's something that I kind of hope it's realistic, I guess, but I don't know. It happens way too often.
We'll get around to the new game eventually and talk about that whenever we do get our hands on it. But a lot of other things happening this week as we wrap up your post-holiday week. I can't believe 4th of July was already a week ago. We'll get into some of that and so much more coming up next as first we got to hit our 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9s. Other things happening this week. The D1 committee is meeting about NCAA tournament expansion in Savannah, Georgia, and as of now, they've not voted to expand it. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get our wish and it'll stay at 68. Though I I'm not thinking that's the most likely, but as of now, they haven't approved it yet.
Yeah, it's probably going to, I don't know. I feel like that's probably a lot more likely, just expanding it and more teams, more weeks of this. I would imagine it probably adds another week to March Madness if I had to.
I don't know if it adds another week.
I don't know about that.
Because if you go to 72, which would be 4 more teams.
Also 72, okay.
Yeah, or 76, which would be 8 more teams. I think you're just expanding the play-in.
I guess so.
Like, instead of having, like, one game on, Tuesday and one game on Wednesday, you probably have, like, a full day for both of those when it comes to play-ins.
Yeah.
So that'd probably be the way that they do it. But, again, I love it the way that it is, and I don't think it should be touched.
No, I just think 68's even a lot. Like, the play-in, like really, like, teams like North Carolina, who they beat? San Diego State, like, they dominated.
Yeah, I don't even remember, but they had to play their way in last year.
Texas.
I will say this. If you're going to expand it and make it a bigger play-in, okay, but do not put any AQs in the play-in. If you win your conference, you should earn a spot in the field of 64.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
The Alabama State should not have to play on Tuesday to then get into the tournament. You should be in, and the Vanderbilts or Syracuse or whoever that didn't get in, the field of 64 as at-larges, that should be your play-ins, not conference champions.
Yeah, move the whole I guess you would have to do different seeds then. So, like, it's typically the 16 seeds and then the 11 seeds. So, in that case, if what we're thinking here is what it could be, get rid of the 16 seed play-in, right? Because that would be a lot of conference champions.
Sure, yeah.
Automatic qualifiers. And make it like, I don't know what seed you would necessarily do to kind of get at what you're trying to do.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of it. There's a way to do it, but you're right. Like, yeah, the 16s that are usually those lower-end mid-majors, they're in automatically, and 11s, 12s, 14s, whatever it may be, of the at-larges from power conferences, that's your play-in, because those teams would be out anyway. They have to earn the right to get in my opinion.
Like, it should be 11s and 12s, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Those teams that are that's where you kind of see the powerhouse schools that, maybe like UNC, Texas, like those types of schools that were, let's be honest, probably not good enough to make the tournament initially as an automatic. But I like it, but I also I don't know.
And again, I feel like expansion's coming no matter what, so that's kind of my one, like, okay, if you're going to do this, go about it in this way, and that's something that I can stomach, because the last thing that I want to see is more AQs having to play on Tuesday or Wednesday just to earn the right to get into the proper field of 64.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see, but hopefully it doesn't happen, but I'm sure it will.
Also this weekend, the final MLB series before the All-Star game, and for teams like mine, well, you just almost kind of wish you could just push a button and get to the end of the year, because it's not going well. You should never lose to the A's. You should especially never get walked off by the A's. And, yeah, that's kind of where things are at right now with the Braves.
But how about the New York Yankees? How about them? Last night, look, they've won 3 games in a row now. They were down 5-0 last night. They were getting no hit last night. I remember.
8 innings?
It was through 7.
Okay. It was in the 8th when they finally got a hit.
So it was funny. I was helping my buddy moving yesterday, and we're eating dinner or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, the Yankees are getting no hits, 5-0 right now." I'm like, "Oh, damn."
It's like, "Oh, there's a game I don't need to watch."
Yeah. So, and then I look at my phone like 20 minutes later, and it's like, "Oh, it's 5-3," and then they tie the game. It's 5-5, and I'm like, "Whoa!" And they are able to complete a 6-5 comeback win. They were down 5-0 this game and no hit through 7 innings. So what a win last night. That is a season-defining win. That is going to change everything, I think, and get this team going. Because, man, if y'all have been watching, they have been awful the last month or so. But I think they're finally starting to pick it up a little bit.
By the way, anybody curious, because they were playing the Mariners, big dumper Cal Raleigh, no hits last night, no home runs.
He hit a bomb in game 1 on
he's leading the league right now.
Monday. He's at 36.
He's on fire.
He broke Ken Griffey's record for most home runs before the All-Star break in a season. So how many home runs do you think Cal Raleigh gets to? Because I think catchers, I think Salvador Perez holds the record with like 50 home runs from like 3 years ago, maybe.
50 is definitely very obtainable. Yeah, I don't know, somewhere in the mid to low 50s probably at the very least. Because again, everybody's going to go through cool periods. But man, and a phenomenal nickname to boot, like Big Dumper. Is incredible.
And he's in the home run derby on Monday. So
I'm very excited for that. Acuna's supposed to still be in it.
Yeah. Jazz Chisholm's in it for the Yankees. So
I'm excited. Like the home run derby is a lot of times like background noise. Like I have it on, but like I'm not like locked in on it. But like I think this year I'm like, okay, this seems like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a good time, and I'm looking forward to. I'd love to go to the home run derby or the All-Star game out in Atlanta while I'm there, but I think I'm gonna save my money and time for when the Yankees are in town next Friday. So
sounds good. We'll dive into some Gamecock football coming up next. Take a look at some stats from last season and see if South Carolina can be better or worse in those specific categories. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Friday here on The Game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. We're all going to be out at SEC Media Days next week, enjoying the party there. But there's a party next week right down the street here in the Vista at Twin Peaks for the Bikini Week costume party going on all week long, where you can enjoy the festivities and enjoy specials on some of your favorite beverages as well, including 29-degree draft beers to keep you cool, refreshing cocktails, and cheap shots. You can also bring in the crew and grab a watermelon margarita topped with watermelon, Red Bull, or a Paloma to beat the heat as well. Of course, there's never a bad time to be at Twin Peaks, especially when there's sports going on, because they have TVs as far as the eye can see, tons and tons of delicious food, and of course, as I mentioned, those 29-degree draft beers. Get down there next week for the bikini costume party or anytime, because it's always a fun time no matter when you go with our friends at Twin Peaks right down the street here in the Vista. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's all right, and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Friday on the game. Yesterday, we dove deep into the running back room and obviously, kind of wonder what it's going to look like on the heels of still not knowing what Rasul Faison's eligibility is going to be. And I meant to get this yesterday, which didn't have time, but I want to look at some specific stats for South Carolina from a year ago that really stand out to me and see if we think they'll be higher or lower this upcoming season in these specific areas. And we'll start off with running back, since that was the hot commodity for most of this week around Faison. The leading rusher for this team, higher or lower than the 881 rushing yards that Rocket Sanders had a season ago?
So what is it again? Sorry.
So Rocket Sanders ran for 881 yards last year on the ground.
That's right.
So the question is, do you think this year's leading running back will be higher or lower than that number? And it's just running back. I'm not like Sellers could run for 1,000 yards. That doesn't count here.
Yeah, that does not.
The lead
does
back.
Not count.
Do you think the lead back will have more yards than that?
Nah, I don't think so. I think we're more so realistically. Look, if Rasul Faison's playing, yes, let's say I think it'd be around the same as what Rocket had last year. Maybe a little bit under. I'd say like that 750, 800 range. But more realistically, if it's one of the other guys, like if it's Auguste, Attaway, Fuller, Howell, whoever, I'm thinking more so probably like that 400 to 500 yard range.
I agree with you, and I'm unfortunately in the camp that thinks that this Faison thing's definitely not going to happen, considering how long it's been. So with that, I think the carries are going to be divvied up quite a bit. I mean, Oscar Attaway would probably get the majority, but I don't think it's going to be like, because Rocket got like 75% of the touches last year, maybe even more than that, maybe closer to 80. I don't think you'd put that same kind of load on Oscar Attaway, so I don't know if the opportunity to gain as many yards would be there necessarily, because I think you'd really be kind of splitting it up a little more evenly across the running back room if that's the case.
Yeah, I think it is going to be one of those situations where it's going to be a little bit by committee heading into the season. Like, I think Attaway will probably be the lead back. You'll have Auguste kind of in that spot of like he'll get his reps, but he'll kind of be like what Oscar was last year.
Sure.
And then I really would like to see these two guys, that redshirted last year, get a little bit more time in there. So I think it will be by committee to begin the year. But like we said, once someone takes the reins, takes a firm grip on this thing, they'll be the lead guy. And I think from there, you'll kind of see like similar to 2023, it took a little while for Mario Anderson to kind of burst onto the scene. Like, I don't think he had a huge game until, I'm trying to think, like maybe like SC State or Mississippi State. It was one of those games kind of like at the, not midway point, but like after the first month of the year. And then he kind of just started really picking it up from there. So
we'll go lower on that one. Next, higher or lower stat. Lenore Sellers, 3,208 all-purpose yards a year ago, so passing and rushing, higher or lower this upcoming season?
I think he goes higher.
Okay.
Because this is a quarterback that should be a lot more comfortable out there on the field. I mean, you look at how long it kind of took at the beginning of last season for him to really get comfortable, like probably by like week, I'm trying to think. So you had Kentucky was week 2, so probably like a little bit after, probably like by LSU, he was feeling himself and looking really good before the injury and whatnot. So I think he gets over, and as long as he stays healthy this year, I think he should be right in the mix of things for the Heisman.
Well, I have to remember as well, he missed a game and a half last year.
That's
so
right.
Half of the LSU game, the second half, and then the entire Akron game that, these numbers could have been potentially pushing 3,500, if not more, if he does play in those additional 6 quarters. So I think just based on that, again, knock on wood, hoping he's healthy the entire year, I think he's definitely going to have to be above that. And again, we expect him to be one of the better quarterbacks in college football, so that should kind of fall in line, with that this fall.
No, absolutely.
Took a look at receiver now. I combined Nick Harbor and Mazio Bennett's total receiving yards last year, which comes out to 713. Of course, Josh Simon was the leading receiver at tight end a season ago. But in terms of wide receivers, the leading wide receiver will have higher or lower than 713 yards this year.
That's a good question. I'm going to say lower. I still, again, here's the thing with South Carolina. Right now, I still don't think they have a number one receiver. I think there are options for guys that could be a number one receiver, but I still feel like they got guys. That's probably better than having just one really good target, and then everyone else is kind of meh. I think everyone's pretty good, but I don't see anyone right now that's like, oh, they're elite. Like, they got potential to be elite, but I just don't know right now. So I'm going to say a little bit under.
I agree. Now, I'd love to be wrong on this, and we're halfway through the season and saying, man, look at that. Nick Harbor finally rounded into that, wide receiver one that we've been waiting for him to be, and he's, out there flirting with 1,000 yards or something this year. Again, I hope that happens. I don't know if it's going to, but I think you have so much potential in this room. Again, assuming that Jared Brown stays healthy, Mazio Bennett for a second year, Nick Harbor for a third year, all these freshmen that we constantly talk about and what they're capable of that I think are going to garner a lot of attention. There's not going to be one just focal guy that's going to be thrown to. I think it's going to be spread around pretty evenly, so I'll go lower for that as well. If
you had to pick one guy to be the leading receiver for South Carolina, though, who would it be?
Man. In terms of yardage, I think I'll go with Mazio, actually. Yeah. Again, Harbor's the big target, but, man, Mazio's shifty. He can do a lot of things and, again, a natural wide receiver by trade for longer. I don't know. I'll put him at the top of that list for me.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I'd probably go Harbor, but I think Mazio's right up there for sure.
Our next one, we're going to go to the defensive side of things. 41 total sacks for this team last year, obviously led by Kyle Kennard en route to the Bronco Nagurski Award. Dylan Stewart, a very strong freshman year. We expect Stewart to have a strong year this year. It's the other guys we're not necessarily sure about. And again, you also have to factor in, defensive linemen, linebackers that can get sacks as well, DBs. So total team sacks higher or lower than 41 this year?
I'm going lower. I hate going lower on all of these, but I just can't say confidently that I expect the same level of production. We got to understand that defense last year was something that doesn't always happen, right? Maybe at some schools that are known for their defense and stuff, but South Carolina had a really good year last year, hit on a lot of their portal targets, and we'll see what they do this year. But 41 sacks, I mean, it's possible, but I mean, we're talking about what they have 9 in a game against Oklahoma. I mean,
I lost count.
That's almost 1/4 of what they had in the entire season last year. So I'm confident they're going to be good, but 41's a lot, so I'm going to go under.
Yeah, last year was extremely special, and obviously you had the talent on either side of the defensive line there that contributed to that. I'm going to go lower as well. And when you kind of look at the recent history of South Carolina, last year was definitely an anomaly. They're usually kind of in the low to mid 20s when it comes to sacks on an average year basis. So it's going to be very hard to replicate or even come anywhere close to that this upcoming season. So I think lower definitely going to be the case there. Final one here. Alex Herrera's field goal percentage was 71.4% last year. Higher or lower, whoever's doing the kicking this year will be better than that.
Well, shoot, it better be higher. I mean, my God. South Carolina needs to. That's the one area. Someone asked me the other day. What position group are you paying attention to the most this year? I said special teams. Kicker is such a big reason why South Carolina was not able to get to 10 wins last year. Nothing on Alex Herrera, but I mean he missed some pretty critical kicks last year. Let's see who's kicking this year, whether it's Peyton Argent or Mason Love. I think it's going to be Mason Love pulling double duty, quite honestly. And I think that's probably for the best. And I think he probably, I'm going to go higher on this one. I think it cannot get worse than last year.
I sure hope it's higher because that was one of my biggest concerns going into last year is hey, this Herrera guy's been on the roster for 6 years and he's never kicked an actual field goal going into the year. I was worried. And again, he made some, but some of the more critical ones he missed, like the one that would have tied the game against LSU and sent it to overtime. Like critical plays here that in years past you felt like South Carolina kickers were making that unfortunately he was not able to. So yes, if it is Mason Love, I really hope that average is a lot higher than 71.4%.
It has to be. So
we'll see.
We went lower on a lot of these, but maybe they'll go higher. We'll see.
Of course, next week SEC Media Days. Big 12 had their Media Days this week, and I have a theory that the Big 12 might be the best conference at one particular thing. I'll share that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. It's Howard Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Friday here on The Game.
This just in, AAA Heating and Air continues to dominate the Midlands with the best HVAC replacement options around. With guaranteed financing, 12 months, no payments or interest, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty, they are setting the standard for new system installations. But did you know they also have great deals on repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're short on cash, AAA Heating and Air can still help. They offer up to 12-month payment plans with no credit check required on repairs. So all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need, nothing more. So don't delay. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Whether it's a replacement or a repair, they've got the deal that you need for you.
Joey got some money. Joey, where you at, baby? He's spending that money. I love it. I love it. Once upon a time, you guys was talking junk about me going in that portal. Now, when everybody go in the portal, it's okay. It's cool when they do it. There's a problem when I do it. Ain't that a rap song? First of all, let's get this straight. I love me some Joey McGuire. And one of the best coaches in our conference. I've seen him excel from high school all the way to where he is now, and he's a winner, and I absolutely love it. And you know, I love him because he's a man of standard. We played there last year, and we was getting bombarded by them Totilos. I don't know how to say it. Somebody say it. Tortillas. We was getting bombarded by that, and Joey grabbed the microphone and told him to stop throwing at us, or it's going to be some consequences. And I love that, and I love Joey. Joey, I know you're out there, baby. I love you, man.
Welcome back into the Extra Point. Tyler and Jack along with you on your Friday. The one and only Deion Sanders at Big 12 Media Days the other day. Well, that was a minute long. What a wild ride that was. Between the Joey's got some money. It's cool when they go in the portal. To not being able to pronounce tortilla correctly. He's never dull behind a microphone.
Nah, he's very interesting. And look, Deion's controversial. I mean, you either really like him or you just don't like him. I mean, it's simple as that. You love him or hate him. I think, there's some things that you probably are like scratching your head, like what's he saying? What's he doing? But, he's different, and I can respect that. So, hey, he had a good year at Colorado last year, and I think he's going to do pretty well this season.
Well, and every time he gets in front of microphones or on TV or whatever, you're always waiting, like, okay, what's the next thing he's going to say that's going to be hilarious or controversial or whatever it may be. And I came to a realization this week, keeping up with the Big 12 Media Day stuff and all these coaches talking, I think I'm ready to proclaim the Big 12 is the best conference for coach personalities. Like, the most dynamic. You have Deion. You have Mike Gundy, who's always good for a quote. You have Kenny Dillingham, who's brutally honest and downright funny sometimes when he wants to be. You got some older coaches in there like Kyle Whittingham. Rich Rodriguez is now back in the fold. Scott Frost, who just lies about things like not wanting the Nebraska job. Like, I think we've got our best conference from like top to bottom personality-wise when it comes to coaches in the Big 12.
You want storylines and intrigue and all that, I think you find it here in the Big 12 without question. Just at media days right now, too, with these three different coaches that you mentioned and some of the other characters out there. I think it's a fun conference, I think, number one, just because there's no clear – Oklahoma and Texas are not there anymore. So there's no clear – favorite in that conference. Like, it's going to be a real battle this season, and I think it'll be something to really keep an eye on as the year goes on. It could be very similar to last year.
I think it's going to be the funnest conference to watch. Again, I think you're going to tune in every single week, still not really knowing who the best team in the conference is until you get down to the very end of November, and they decide who's going to be going to the conference championship game, and that could be Texas Tech, that could be Kansas, that could be Kansas State, that could be Iowa State, that could be Arizona State again. Like, I just don't really know what to expect, out of that conference. And again, anytime a lot of these coaches get behind a microphone, you're waiting to see like, oh, okay, what are they going to say? What's coming next? And what are we going to have to talk about come Monday? And when you really think about it, the past couple years in college football, we've lost some of the best talkers, at least from a head coaching standpoint. Nick Saban's retired. Jim Harbaugh's in the NFL. Obviously, Mike Leach has passed on. Like, those guys were, quote, machines. Even when Saban went on rants about things, legendary, like the blank through a tin horn when they were talking about Georgia Southern years ago, phenomenal stuff. I feel like when I look around the SEC now, Lane will say something occasionally, but like Lane does most of his damage on social media. Like, he's a Twitter troll that may occasionally say something witty or shocking in a press conference. Like, Eli Drinkwitz likes to poke the bear a little bit, but he's more dweebish the way he comes off. I mean, really, where and Beamer can be fiery from time to time too and say something quotable, but like top to bottom, I feel like the league's not as interesting coach-wise as it used to be.
Yeah, and you had the whole thing with Stoops and Beamer a few years ago with the stupid sunglasses and stuff at media days, so that had some intrigue. But yeah, it's not like the Big 12, I would say. I don't think there's any conference that's like the Big 12 in terms of having all these personalities and stuff. I think it's just different. Feels like the Wild West out there compared to everything else going on here.
I mean, like in the Big Ten, outside of Ryan Day, going after Lou Holtz that time, he's never really said anything that's been like, wow, oh my God, crazy. James Franklin can have a little nugget here or there. I mean, outside of that, is there anybody really stands out in the Big Ten that you're like, oh yeah, like I'm locked in on that guy's pressers?
I think Dan Lanning's interesting, but I don't know if he's like, I don't know.
Dan Lanning's still so young in this too.
Yeah.
Like we've only had him as a head coach for a couple years. So I feel like we got to get a little more fleshed out.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get more comfortable and start, really poking and prodding at people. The ACC is decent. Like Dabo, of course, is always gonna.
Dabo's always got something.
Is always gonna say something. Preston brought up Fran Brown at Syracuse.
Yeah,
he's pretty good. Like he's got some stuff that make you scratch your head a little bit, but also is like, okay, I see what he means.
Yeah, no, and I'm interested to hear because Syracuse helped Clemson get to the ACC championship last year. So I wonder if that's something that's going to be mentioned here at media days, or if
maybe,
or if it will be because they play each other this year. So that'll be interesting.
And then I don't know where we're getting out of Bill Belichick.
Oh, I mean, he's better this year, I think, in terms of talking ever since he got to college. But
the most interesting thing about him is his girlfriend.
Yeah, which we haven't heard much about them lately, which I'm kind of glad.
I think the powers that be in Chapel Hill have made sure that's been the case here as of late. Like, hey, we're getting a little too sideways here.
Yeah,
the headlines aren't about football. Let's dial this back.
The season hasn't even started yet, so which I still don't think Bill's tenure at UNC is going to go well.
By the way, they played that opening Memorial Day night or Labor Day night, excuse me.
Yeah,
against TCU. Like all eyes on Bill. And
prime time.
Maybe we should have
Monday Night Football.
Maybe we should have like a bet on how many times they're either going to talk about or show Jordan Hudson in the game.
Oh my God, they're gonna have her on the broadcast, I'm sure.
Will it be like the Taylor cam for Chiefs games?
Look, that's something that people either really love or really hate. I'm indifferent on it, but if I saw a Jordan Hudson cam, I think I'd throw my TV out the window.
I enjoy the Taylor Swift cam from the pure standpoint. I know it angers a lot of people.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, why are they showing her? Well, she's the biggest pop star in the entire world. That's why.
Who is Jordan Hudson? She's just Bill Belichick's girlfriend.
Apparently, the runner-up in the Miss, was it Maine pageant or whatever?
Yeah.
So she's not even good enough to win that.
Yeah, not pretty enough, I guess. So.
I don't know. But she's apparently pulling the puppet strings for Bill Belichick, and we'll see how this saga continues to unfold. So ACC is a dark horse in that category of like coach personalities, but I think Big 12 still top of the list. And yes, I'm very excited to watch that conference unfold this year.
Yeah, so it sounds like the SEC is pretty bland when it comes to coaching personalities.
Compared to where it was, because again, you used to have Saban, you used to have Spurrier, Urban Meyer, of course, Mike Leach. Again, Kiffin's been around for a while now. Like, it pales in comparison to what it once was.
You don't have...
Philip Fulmer.
Yeah. You don't have those big personalities. There's no. Is there a villain in the SEC? You feel like? I mean, that's a different type of personality compared to the charismatic.
And like, I think Saban became a villain because he won so much.
Yeah.
I don't think Kirby and Georgia are there yet.
Nah.
Like that could be a thing in a couple years. I don't know. I think everybody kind of hates Eli Drinkwitz because he's just kind of dorky.
He's a dweeb.
It's not like a menacing villain type thing.
No, but that might be what South Carolina. That might be what the SEC needs moving forward. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Livy Dunn tried to buy Babe Ruth's apartment and was denied. We'll get into that next. It is the Extra Point. It's our Ed and Jack Feltry with you on your Friday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's our Ed and Jack Beltry wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Friday. By the way, it's Texas Day on the SEC Network for the takeover. They're replaying the Peach Bowl from last year, and we're about 5 minutes to go as Arizona State's in their midst of that comeback. They were down 24-3. It's still insane to me how they managed to come back and force that game to overtime. Let's be honest, they should have won. Texas should have been called for the targeting on at midfield. That should have at least set them up for a field goal try to win the game. And then, again, Texas makes the crazy fourth down touchdown. Like, man, Arizona State, what a run and what a game that was last year.
Yeah, they got robbed, I think, and it is what it is. But I'm surprised they're not showing, like, are there not better games to show on there? That one, I don't know if I'd show that one on there.
It was a fun game, and it punched their ticket to the semifinals where they lost to Ohio State. But, yeah, I don't know. But Texas Day on the SC Network if you want to get into that. I came across this the other day. Livy Dunn, of course, well-known influencer, former college athlete, gymnast at LSU, and girlfriend, of course, of Paul Skeens, attempted to buy Babe Ruth's apartment in New York City. She was denied, and she detailed why that was.
Guys, I'm so upset. So a few months ago, I decided I was going to make my first real estate purchase, which is so exciting, and I was going to get an apartment in New York City. But the gag was, it was Babe Ruth's apartment. So naturally, I'm telling everybody, I'm excited. I was going to buy it, and I was going to pay with cash. I wanted this apartment bad. It got to the point where the realtor was so confident. Paul and I went. I got an interior designer because I didn't want to bring my college furniture to Babe Ruth's apartment. That would be criminal. Then the week that I'm supposed to get my keys to my brand new apartment, I get a call. The co-op board denied me. So pretty much the people in the building voted to not have me live there, which is fine. Honestly, it wasn't financial. It could have been, for all I know, they could have been Alabama fans and I went to LSU. I have no clue. Maybe they didn't want a public figure living there, but I was literally supposed to get the keys, and that week they denied me. So it was just iconic. It was so cool that it was Babe Ruth's apartment. But yeah, but long story short, don't try to live in a co-op. You might get denied, and you won't get Babe Ruth's apartment.
So we don't know the specific reasons for why she got denied buying Babe Ruth's apartment. By the way, it was valued at $1.6 million. And let's be honest, you look at the pictures, yeah, he lived there, but it's not anything crazy. I don't think it's worth it. Your knowledge of this area of the country, do you think there were people perhaps behind the scenes there's no way we can let Livy Dunn buy Babe Ruth's apartment? We have to make sure we deny her. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's this split on Livy Dunn, and whether you really like her or you don't. And I think she's fine. I don't think she's a problem at all. There are let's be quite honest. There are far worse girlfriends out there of famous athletes and coaches.
She's one of those people that some people get too mad about. You know what I mean? And that kind of is I think that tells me more about you as a person than it does about her. You know what I mean? Why does she upset you that much? You know what I mean?
All I've seen is that she's a supportive girlfriend of Paul Skeens, who Paul's kind of and they're not, it's weird because they're
it's an odd couple.
They're a very odd couple because I think both of them are kind of awkward in a lot of ways. I saw an interview with them on GQ or something recently, and just them kind of having a conversation. It's these two people date.
Yeah,
that seems kind of weird.
I think Paul's athleticism goes a long way in how that ended up happening. But regardless, with how big baseball is in New York and how sacred the Yankees are, I can imagine there was somebody that's there's no way we can let this influencer, girlfriend of a pirate pitcher, hold this sanctity home of, at one time, Babe Ruth. No, we got to make sure she doesn't get it.
Yeah, and I'm sure the apartment looked nothing like that back in the 1920s and 30s.
That's the thing to me. Again, it's $1.6 million, and I look at it, and yes, obviously, downtown real estate in New York, that's very expensive, but I look at it and I'm like, yeah, there's nothing in there that's Babe Ruth-esque. You know what I mean?
No.
It's none of the same stuff outside of hey, I'm standing where Babe Ruth probably stood at one point. That there's not that much appeal there to me.
And how often are you getting an offer for $1.6 million from someone? I mean, there are a lot of wealthy people out there, but and I know living in New York is expensive, but like, how many people are going to be offering up $1.6 million to live in this apartment? You know, like if she's offering, take it. I mean, they must have a lot of suitors out there.
I imagine there's probably a lot of young men our age that maybe are living in this area or in that building. They're very mad that Livy Dunn got denied because how thrilled would they have been to be living near or next to Livy Dunn?
Oh man, you know what this reminds me of? It just reminds me of like. So I mean, this is legitimately Babe Ruth's apartment, right?
Yes, he lived there for some period of time.
I was gonna say it reminds me of like that episode of Seinfeld where George has John Voight's car.
Yes, same thing.
It reminds me of that, or the pencil or whatever. Yeah. So it reminds me of that. But I guess this seems legit. So
I love a good Seinfeld reference.
Ah man, so
all right, Jack. We'll see you next week in media.
Yeah, see you Monday.
That'll do it for hour number one of the Extra Point. Coming up next, hour number two, we'll run the numbers with Corey Parson. Also, Joe Machika going to jump in with me for the back half of the 10 o'clock hour as he does each and every Friday here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you here, hour number 2 on your Friday. It is 10 o'clock on Friday. That means it's time to run the numbers with our guy, Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network. Corey, didn't see you last week because of the 4th of July holiday, but hopefully the holiday was good for you and everyone there. And welcome back in.
Yep, glad to be back coming past the holiday. And obviously, when you look past the 4th of July, Tyler, this is when we kind of get to a dead zone in sports. We'll actually have that day with no sports where the ESPN has the ESPYs coming up. So that would be something to look forward to if you're into that. But normally what you see this time of year is a lot of guys will start getting their league invites from their commissioner, and fantasy football talk will start to ramp up. Yep. I know a lot of people are not really into it right now because, just getting back from the 4th, and
sure,
most drafts won't happen until August or something like that if you participate. So I figured now would be a good time to kind of introduce the folks to, what the first round of a lot of fantasy drafts are looking like so far and what they can expect when the fellas do gather up at their favorite spot to draft their fantasy teams and to knock down a couple cold ones.
It is funny you mentioned that because literally yesterday, my group chat that I have for my fantasy football league just started blowing up. Everybody kind of touching base on who's going to be in, who's going to be out. So yeah, it's coming pretty soon, and we'll be having that snake draft here in what seems like a couple weeks time, and I'll try not to finish dead last in my league this time because I've done that before and it's not fun.
No, Tyler, we'll make sure we get there this year. So just keep me up on what's going on, and I'll make sure you don't finish dead last.
Well, see, I feel like I draft a good team every single year, but whether it be injuries or just playing the wrong people on the wrong weeks, because I'll have a guy on my bench that I go off for 30 points. And I'm like, well, should have started him because the receiver I put in over him had 2 points instead or something like that. That's kind of my luck when it comes to fantasy, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's going to change this year.
I certainly hope so. Well, you mentioned that first round and kind of taking a look here at some key guys that we can expect to go off of a lot of draft boards pretty quickly. Of course, when we talk about fantasy football, the quarterbacks and wide receivers are obviously kind of your money guys when it comes to those early rounds and their ability to score a lot of points. And, kind of looking at some of these numbers here of guys that are expected to go off the board pretty quickly. It's no surprise Jamar Chase out there in Cincinnati, hooked up with old teammate in Joe Burrow once again each and every year. Those guys are worth a lot of points, and he shouldn't be on too many people's boards for too long before getting snatched up.
Yeah, Jamar Chase currently going off the board in the passing league now as the first pick, and obviously he is we saw what he did last year, but it kind of plays into what I've been saying about the Cincinnati Bengals and their brand of football. They're basically a 7-on-7 team. They fall behind, they abandon the run, and they just throw the football. Joe Burrow threw the football over 650 times last year.
His numbers were insane.
Yeah, so there's enough targets for Chase and Higgins. But Chase, obviously, the alpha dog, the guy out there, he's going off the board at 1. I mean, you just can put up monster numbers, 150-something receptions, whatever the case may be. He can definitely have another great season and perform again because that style of play is not going to change.
And there's a lot of confidence, obviously, in the guy throwing the ball in Joe Burrow because you know how capable he is. And like I said, those numbers are insane. And he gets the ball to Jamar Chase quite a bit. Some of these other quarterbacks we expect to go pretty quickly in the first round, though. Quarterback situation is still a little bit unknown. And I'll look at, Malik Neighbors with New York, who had a very strong rookie year last year, but most of that season was being thrown to by, the likes of, Daniel Jones, which obviously isn't worth a whole lot at the, at the end of the day. But, you got Russell Wilson there. We'll see what becomes of Jameis Winston, if Jackson Dart can get up to speed. But regardless of who the quarterback's going to be, they at least have a good target to throw to. I just don't know. Yeah, I think this is what worries a lot of people is how much they're going to be able to get that ball out and get to him to rack up those numbers.
Here's the interesting thing about Malik Neighbors, probably the most interesting guy going in the first round. Right now, his average draft position is he is being drafted as the 8th overall pick in fantasy leagues. Now, the reason why it's interesting is because, yes, he did have 170 targets last year, which is crazy. And some people say volume trumps efficiency. I'm not so sure how much I like that thought process, but that 170 targets is real. And he's going to be able to put up big target numbers again this year. But the problem is he only caught a little over 100 of those balls, and it was somewhere around a pedestrian, 9 to 10 yards per reception.
Right.
When you want receivers that have that 13, 14 yards per reception, when they're racking up those type of targets, you want them to be on that Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb level. He's just getting the targets. He's not really getting the production. But listen, the volume is important and you can't turn it down. Whether it's going to be Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, whatever the case may be, he's getting the volume. I don't know if he'd be too high on my board, though.
Looking kind of elsewhere, and this past year it was a really good. By the way, running the numbers with the guy Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network, focusing this week on fantasy football and guys expect to go high in that first round with your respective drafts. Last year for Justin Jefferson out there in Minnesota, of course, Sam Darnold, nobody saw it coming, but he had the greatest year of his entire career, and I think the jury's still kind of out on if he's truly coming to form as an NFL quarterback. That was just a one-season flash in the pan. But again, Justin Jefferson ended up being one of his favorite targets a year ago. And now you turn the reins over seemingly to a still relatively unknown J.J. McCarthy coming off of an injury. Obviously, the Vikings, how high they drafted him a couple seasons ago, have high hopes for him. But you're always weary of a first-time starting quarterback. And what kind of production levels they can put out there. But again, he's going to have that safety net and that valve of Justin Jefferson to get the ball out too. You just hope if you're an owner of him that you don't see his numbers decline this year because of that.
Well, here's the thing. He's kind of proven to be quarterback proof over the years, and that talent is legit, and that system is real. But the reason why I wouldn't downgrade him is because of the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. And what does Kevin O'Connell know how to do? He knows how to coach the quarterback. And if he turns Sam Darnold around, I'm very sure that he comes in with a fresh J.J. McCarthy, and he's teaching him and he's getting ready for that system. So I would not make the mistake of downgrading Justin Jefferson because you're scared of who J.J. McCarthy is. Jefferson is quarterback proof one, and how O'Connell coaches the quarterback, he's going to make sure that J.J. McCarthy is going to have a solid second season, even though he'll be a rookie in playing time, but this is really his second year out there.
Staying focused with the wide receivers here. We'll take a look at running backs here coming up in a second. But going to Detroit, who, again, disappointed a lot of people by being bounced out of the playoffs as early as they did a season ago. That obviously has no bearing on fantasy because fantasy football wraps up before the playoffs get here. But one of the key factors in that offense last year was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, his overall yards went down a little bit, but his touchdowns were up from a season ago, and fully expect him to factor in once again as being a high-caliber member of that Detroit offense with Jared Goff, who's really hitting his stride as Detroit's quarterback, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is certainly one of his favorite targets.
And what you're going to hear a lot of people in your league say, or a lot of fantasy pundits say, is, well, Ben Johnson is gone now. We don't know if the offense is going to be the same. I would not bank on Ben Johnson being gone as a reason why you would downgrade the players on the Detroit Lions. I think that if you downgrade anybody, you downgrade the tight end, whose name skips my mind right now. What's the tight end for the Lions' name that had the great rookie season? You downgrade him because you'll get a full year out of Jamison Williams, right? And I think that he'll take a lot of that production. But when it comes to Gibbs and St. Brown, do not downgrade them because Ben Johnson is gone. I think they're still going to be very effective in the offense, and a lot of what the offense was is going to remain the same anyway. You're still going to have Goff. You're still going to have some pieces of the coaching staff in there. So I'm not worried about Gibbs and St. Brown. As a matter of fact, I'm so high on Gibbs, I would take him at 1-1 over Jamar Chase. Gibbs is a home run hitter who doesn't need a lot of touches to get to put up very efficient numbers, right? He's like kind of the opposite of Neighbors. But Neighbors needs volume. Gibbs just needs touches because he can hit home runs and break big plays. So a back that's not carrying the ball a lot, that can rack up big yardage. I like him. I like a player like that, either running or catching. So I would not downgrade Gibbs and St. Brown because Ben Johnson's not there.
And again, that was Sam Laporta, the tight end you were thinking of. That's come on strong in his first couple of years in the league, a big factor in that Lions offense as well. Again, talking to Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network. As we run the numbers as we do each and every Friday, let's transition over to the running back position. And obviously, I have to start off with the guy that dominated the league once again last year and helped lead his team to the Super Bowl victory in the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley, 2,000-yard season in 16 games last year. When you kind of look at the history of the NFL, when you have a 2,000-yard season, you're going to have a fall off. How far is that fall off? We don't know. It's certainly next to impossible to expect them to back that up and have another 2,000-yard season, but Saquon Barkley looks as healthy as ever and certainly is going to give it a good shot, and I imagine he's going to be the first running back off the board in probably just about every single league this upcoming year.
You'll either see a combination of three people as the first running backs off the board. It would be Barkley, as you mentioned. It would be Gibbs, as I mentioned. Or it could very well be Bijan Robinson. A lot of people high on Bijan Robinson coming into the year this way, also because of the volume and touches that he gets. Now, what I can say about Barkley is you kind of nailed it. To me, it is kind of scary to go to a player coming off that kind of usage last year. You know what I mean? So you're banking on a guy after a big season like that. I'm not saying you let him slide all the way down the board, but, you are taking on some risk. Now, it's high risk and it's also high reward. You could be a fool for leaving him sitting there like I was last year when he was at the end of the first round and I didn't get him nowhere. Or you could be the champion again this year. So I'm treading lightly, but I'm not going to say I'm not going to be exposed to him at all at the right price.
Well, it's one of those things I did mention, he seems as healthy as he's ever been in his NFL career up to this point. But obviously, we know running backs have a very short shelf life in the league. And typically when they fall off pretty fast. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Saquon Barkley, but if anybody is hesitant, maybe that could be one of the reasons why, like, hey, carried the rock a ton last year. Obviously, a very physical toll that you take is not only in the regular season, but going through the playoffs. There could be a little bit of worry that might be a lot of the load, might be the residual effects of that carrying over to this year that maybe could limit him a little bit. But again, until I see it, then I'm going to have to believe that he's going to be just as good in kind of that same realm that he was a year ago.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, to go away from that because you don't want to get burnt. You know what I mean? So you're in a it's a good problem to have. Put it like that. But whatever the case may be, and another thing that hurts Barkley is the tush push.
Yeah,
that hurts Barkley. You do not look past how many touchdowns. I mean, this guy could have put up tremendous touchdown numbers last year too, but Jalen Hurts got him.
One more here, and perhaps one of the more intriguing guys of the entire draft. This past April was Ashton Jeanty going in the first round to the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, we don't see running backs go that high that often anymore. There's a belief this guy can really come in and change the game in the league like he did when he was at Boise State for his years in college. And again, that's a Las Vegas team that will probably rely pretty heavily on him in that offense this upcoming season. And you're always taking a risk with rookies because you never know. But if there was ever a guy that could really pop in year number one, it seems like Jeanty might be that guy.
So the detractors, and you can speak to this, will say, well, look at what conference he played and he wasn't playing against the top talent. Yeah. That's what the detractors will say. But clearly the Las Vegas Raiders think that he was a first-round valuable running back, and some of these early fantasy drafts, people have him going in the first round. You know what Pete Carroll is going to do. Sure. He's going to build culture. He's going to build an offensive line, and he is going to run the football. So the volume will be there. It's just a matter of, is he going to have a chance to close games? Because that's really when running backs rack up their fantasy points, when they have a chance in the fourth quarter to close the game and slam the door on the team. But if you're playing from behind, that could help your pass catching, a la Bijan Robinson, if Atlanta's in, some tight spots. But really, you want backs on good teams that can close the game. I think the Raiders are going to be a borderline playoff team this year. I think you'll see great improvement from them. Is he going to get opportunities to close the door of games? Maybe not so much, but he will get volume. He will get touches. And what he does with those touches, we'll see. I can't really speak to, the level of competition. I feel as if he was drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. I think that he's, the pro scouts think he's ready for that level of competition. And we see what he was able to do in college. So, and we see what system he's in and who's that head coach. They're going to run the football.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun. Can't wait for all football to get started, especially fantasy football. And hopefully some of these tips help you out when it comes to who you select in your first round coming up here in a couple weeks. Corey, appreciate your time as always. Talk to you next week, and we'll be that much closer to football, man.
Do it again soon, my man.
All right, he is Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network. Ty right along with you here on your Friday on the Extra Point here on the game.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you. Joe Machika hanging out with me as he does each and every Friday. Didn't see you last week, so hopefully the 4th of July holiday was good. And welcome to the month of July. Football's next month, man.
Yes, sir, Tyler. Football is on the horizon, and yeah, appreciate you having me. It was a nice little break last weekend for the
Good.
4th and everything. Got home, got up on the lake shore, up on Lake Michigan.
Met Kirk Cousins' dad randomly.
I did meet Kirk Cousins' dad at one of the local spots up there on off the shore of Lake Michigan. He does know ball. He was ordering a off the menu milkshake, which is it's a hot fudge sundae and a chocolate milkshake.
That sounds phenomenal.
It's actually incredible. They call it a Boston milkshake.
Okay.
So yeah, if you can find a place around here to probably make that for you, like ball.
I have to maybe come up with that concoction myself.
Right.
That sounds pretty good.
It's actually incredible.
I think this is the most excited you've ever been to come in here, given the topics I told you we were going to be discussing today. I came across this article on The Athletic the other day by Pete Sampson talking about Clemson and Notre Dame. And for one, I love rivalries. It's what makes college football, college sports special. That, you have rivalries in professional sports, but college, it's so much deeper. The hatred is more bitter. We'll get to trophies in a minute because you're playing for things in a lot of these too. And Pete Sampson positioned that Clemson and Notre Dame is perhaps one of the best new rivalries in the sport. They've signed the 12-year agreement to play each other every single year for the next 12 seasons. So we're going to see a lot of these matchups, and we expect, assuming that Marcus Freeman and Dabo Swinney keep the teams on their respective paths, they're both going to be towards the top of college football for the next decade plus, potentially. I don't know if that makes it a rivalry, though. That's the question.
Yeah, most definitely, Tyler. It's a good topic, right, for this time of year because college football is so close, right? And rivalries are the best thing about college football. It's what makes college football college football. And, honestly, you get something out of college football rivalries that you don't necessarily get for many pro rivalries, right? Maybe Yankees, Red Sox, sure, but Bears, Packers, whatever. But so again, I think, this whole Notre Dame Clemson rivalry is an interesting one for sure because, you've got the signature moments. You've got Dabo, bring your own guts. You've got, the rain game and the push off and all of the drama that's already unfolded in that rivalry. And also, if you look at it from a Notre Dame sake, and not to beat around the bush here, but being from South Bend and everything, you see them not renewing rivalries with Southern Cal and Michigan.
Yep.
And so I think the AD was just kind of like, all right, we need to get a consistent, rival on there and to try to get Michigan and Southern Cal, if you will, to, stop avoiding playing football. And Michigan's back on the deal too. Like they're going to be back on the schedule, but the way that Southern Cal has kind of been, I guess, absent from rivalry negotiations is crazy. Because it's one of the better rivalries in college football, too.
But by the way, when Michigan and Notre Dame are playing each other, all is right in the world of college football because that's just something that makes total and complete sense. And I don't deny that Clemson and Notre Dame can become bitter rivals.
Yeah.
I don't think we're there yet as of right now. As you mentioned, bring your own guts. 2020 had the double overtime game. They played in the conference championship in the one year that Notre Dame was actually in a conference, as weird as that was. So you have those little kind of plot points. But I think, and this, going back to this article by Pete Sampson, you can't tell people when something's a rivalry. It just has to happen organically. You just have to kind of look around and be like, hey, we all hate Clemson really bad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of a rival thing. And again, I don't deny that we can get there. I just don't like this positioning like, hey, it's going to be. It just either has to happen itself and everybody come to that same realization all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm currently, I know this is radio, so you can't see it, but I'm wearing my Georgia Notre Dame Sugar Bowl shirt that was gifted to me by my brother. By the way, I didn't buy it.
Sure.
Student at South Carolina still, so, but, anyways, I think the Georgia-Notre Dame rivalry could become something too, because they're renewing that contract, and I think because both those games were hard fought and stuff, and I think to make or the start of a rivalry, if you will, is that you want another shot, right? The fan base, it's something where you see the other team as a place that you want to be in football, and it's like, man, I want another shot at those guys. I think we can get some ground moving here.
Well, and I think the continuity of it is really important because Notre Dame and Georgia have played 4 times in their history. They played the 1980 Sugar Bowl, where Georgia won the national championship, had the home and home in 17 and 19, and last year played in the Sugar Bowl again for the college football playoff quarterfinal. So every time they play, it is a really, really big deal, but it's not what I denote to be a traditional rivalry. It's just two good to great programs that keep finding their way to each other, especially this handful of years. But like, you have to be on someone's schedule consistently, I feel like, to be a rivalry. And again, playing in the postseason doesn't count because that was not predetermined.
Yeah, I would agree with that most definitely. And again, I think it just boils to, that's what kind of makes a rivalry, right? Close games. You start to see them a little bit in the postseason, maybe some bowl games, right? Like, I mean, if South Carolina and Illinois just happen to start scheduling each other out of conference.
There's something budding there,
right?
If they kept seeing each other more.
So I think, you know, in this new age of college football where everyone is starting to get good, and Notre Dame is also at the unique point where they can kind of schedule whoever they want. I think, you know, the oddball thing that I brought to this, you know, I guess segment was like, I think Notre Dame should have to schedule an SEC opponent like every year, a rotating SEC rival or something, just so the SEC has their shot to be like, okay, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Have you been to any of these Clemson Notre Dame games up to this point?
I haven't. That's the one I haven't gotten to because when it really started going, it was over COVID, and I had some friends that were at that game that were students and stuff, and they were like, yeah, we could feel it, even from like the Clemson personnel and stuff. They didn't want to be there and all that stuff. So
my question is vitriol. Because rivalries have to be steeped in hatred. Like, it's one thing to play another high-level program. And, like, again, we expect these two teams to be towards the top of college football for years to come when they're playing every single year for the next 12 years. But it takes more than just having high rankings next to your name to add substance to the rivalry. It has to be, if you're on the Notre Dame side and I were on the Clemson side, you have to hate me and I have to hate you. Like, that is how this has to be to take it to that level of what rivalries in college football are traditionally about, at least the good ones. Like, again, we have these fake ones where people say, hey, South Carolina, A&M and Missouri are rivals now. Nobody cares about that. Like, those aren't legit. I'm talking about deep, hatred-filled rivalries that, again, this could become, but we're not there yet.
Right. And I know, and like, I like it, Tyler, because I think at the beginning, like when, like we were talking about the like how a rivalry buds, right? It's close games and it's, you know, it's coaches taking shots, Dabo saying, bring your own guts. And Brian Kelly with the push play on the goal line that he usually runs. And that, like, plays like that really started. And I think you kind of just have to sign a deal and hope it takes off, right? If some of these games are blowouts, like I don't necessarily know if, you know, you can call it a rivalry. And two, there's not really a trophy yet, and we're not to you know, get ahead of myself, right? But there isn't a trophy yet, and I think like with that, what comes of the matchup, I think you can find a trophy, and right, what like, you know, with the drama of the series and everything, you can, you know, we'll get creative with that for sure.
So it's going to be one to monitor certainly for the next handful of years, as they are going to see each other, you know, every single year for pretty much the next decade. And I don't know, we'll see if it develops into that true rivalry. But again, for me, got to have a lot of hatred behind it. And we could get there, but we're not there yet. So it's going to be interesting to see. You teased it there. Rivalries have trophies, a lot of them. And I spent way too long yesterday ranking all of the rivalry trophies in college football. I have a lot of thoughts to share on this, which we'll hit coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. He is Joe Machika. I'm Tyler Head on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's our Ed and Joe Machika with you on your Friday here on the game. It is time for Who Sprung a Leak, brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection. And as I was going through yesterday and creating a ranking for all 82 rivalry trophies in college football that are mostly active right now, I realized some people really drop the ball when it comes to making these trophies. Whoever the creators of some of these ones that are very low on my list, I feel like sprung a leak because they just didn't even try, it seems like.
Yeah, Tyler, this is a great Who Sprung a Leak. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, he did rank all 82.
It took me so long yesterday.
Yeah, all 82 active rivalry trophies.
I was so committed. I was like,
you have to be.
I got to like 30, and I was like, how many more of these am I going to have to do?
Yeah.
And I counted. I'm like, oh, there's like 50 more.
Uh-huh.
So, but I powered through it.
That doesn't count for the inactive ones because there were a couple because Notre Dame and Michigan State plays for a megaphone, which is also kind of a dumb
but they haven't done
trophy.
that. It's been a few years.
It's been a few years since Michigan State's been on the schedule.
I also didn't include three-way trophies.
Right.
So like Florida State, and Miami have a trophy that they share. The Commander-in-Chief trophy with the Service Academy is like I didn't put three-way trophies in there. This is straight up one game, winner takes the trophy, no questions asked. That's what I ranked here, and I did it because I was curious to see how I felt about South Carolina's rivalry trophies because they have three of them, Palmetto Bowl, Bonham, and then the Mayor's Cup with Missouri. And I kind of figured the Mayor's Cup was going to be pretty low on my list, which it was. I was curious where I felt about the Palmetto and the Bonham trophy, and they end up coming up right in the middle for the most part. Out of 82 total that I ranked, Palmetto Bowl comes in 43rd. Which, and I'm looking for creativity here. Give me something unique. Again, you'll see with the Mayor's Cup in a second. If you just give me a cup on a piece of wood, whatever.
Right.
At least the Palmetto Bowl trophy is, paying homage to the state with the state tree. And, again, if you look at that and say, what state's that for? Most people will be able to say, that's probably South Carolina. So I give points for creativity. 43rd Palmetto Bowl. Same thing with the Bonham at 46. Because, while, yes, the rivalry itself is ridiculous, when it comes to A&M, there's no juice there.
Yeah.
At least the trophy is kind of cool because it's got the guy on horseback. He's got a sword. All right, you're giving me something there.
Yeah. Ratings purely based off of the trophy itself is awesome. Because, you look at the Palmetto Bowl, one of the most historic rivalries in college football, ever. I think realistically, it's going to be ranked higher. When you sent me this list, I was shocked to see that it was solely based off of just the trophy itself. And I love it. This is what July is for, Tyler.
It is. And really, I was listening to Elijah and Preston yesterday talking about rivalries, and they must have mentioned the Bonham Trophy or something, and I just had this idea in my head. And because it took me so long, I didn't allow myself to sit and marinate on anything. I'm like, all right, here's the trophy. I'll look at a picture of it. Boom, here's where it goes. I'm not debating back and forth. It's instant reaction, first impression. Here's what I think, and that's how I came to this list.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones on there, and I agree with your take, on the Bonham Trophy and then the Mayor's Cup. I think, in their own rights, the rivalries, South Carolina, Missouri, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. I think it's kind of like a little brother, older brother thing as it goes along here, but we'll see.
I think most of the conference just kind of rejects Missouri anyway.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
You're the farthest from everyone for the most part. It's weird. You're in the Midwest. Why are you in the SEC? And Eli Drinkwitz can rile people up with the stuff that he says.
Dry humor and stuff.
It just seems like to me, they're like, all right, these two teams share the same city name. Let's make that a thing. Okay. And I used the analogy earlier. The Mayor's Cup looks like a trophy. If you were driving to the event and you're like, oh, bleep, I need a trophy, you stop at the trophy store and go, that one on the shelf. Give me that one.
Yep.
It's just kind of, it's bland. It's generic. It doesn't do much for me.
The only tie being they're both named Columbia's. I don't know. It's bland. I agree. The Bonham Trophy is cool. It's simply because the Alamo is also cool. You have the guy on the horse. It's a big trophy.
Yep.
The A&M rivalry's been fun too. I think South Carolina, Texas A&M.
Sure.
It's just kind of like a weird crossbreed between the SEC and what was when Texas was in the Texas was in the Big 12. Both Texas schools were in the Big 12.
South Carolina's finally started winning, and that rivalry, if we want to call it that, which I don't think that it is. But so at least the trophy is cool, even if there's not a substance to the rivalry itself. But I want to turn my attention to the top of the list because this is where things get really fun.
And this is good, yeah.
I made sure to avoid reading other people's lists, because you can go out there and read, hey, here's the best college trophies ranked 1 to 150 or whatever. I made sure not to read any of those because I didn't want my perception skewed. I wanted all these to be my pure, genuine reaction to seeing a lot of these for the first time. Because, again, there were some of them that we're familiar with, especially out of the Big Ten, that we know that I had an idea about. But some of these I'm like, whoa, didn't know that one existed. Let me put that somewhere towards the top. So these are all just quick reactions on how I got to this list. I want to start off in the top 5 with what I think is one of the more unique ones, and I give them a lot of points for that, the Bones. The Battle of the Bones between Memphis and UAB. That's quite literally a rack of ribs on a trophy that these two teams fight over. And I'm like, yes, please, this is what I look for in a trophy.
Yeah, Tyler, this is my number one in terms of trophies. This is what I thought of. I have an uncle that went to Memphis and raves about this trophy simply because of how good the barbecue is in Memphis and everything like that. And it's just one of the cooler, trophies, because you think about it, the offensive linemen, these big boys, like you're trying to eat, right? Like you go out there and eat. So I think it's huge, and also like just a really cool way to capture that part of the country.
So that one gets a lot of credit for me, and I think a lot of people will think like, oh, Paul Bunyan's axe, that's the best rivalry trophy in college football.
Right.
It's number 2 for me, and I do think it's very, very good, and I thought it was going to be number 1 on my list as well until I came across my actual number 1, the $5 Bits of Broken Chair trophy for Minnesota and Nebraska. Now, I think a lot of people may not know that this trophy actually exists because it's so relatively new, and I said this earlier, I'm going to preface this. What I'm about to tell you of how this came to be is completely true. I'm not making any of this up. The Golden Gopher Twitter account tweeted at Bo Pelini, the parody college football account of Bo Pelini back in the day, back in 2014, about a wager on that year's game. And Bo Pelini was like, all right, I'll play along. If you win, I'll give you $5, but if I win, I get to smash a chair over you. And the Golden Gopher was like, yeah, let's do it. And thus, this trophy was born. That is quite literally a chair laying on its side with a piece missing and dollar bills on the underside of it.
Yeah. It's college football in a nutshell. I hadn't heard of it, Tyler. I was like, and with the Big Ten, right? I growing up in Big Ten country,
every game in the Big Ten,
right, is some kind of rivalry, and like and both schools are in on it. Like, it's very, both Big Ten schools get all the casuals, and everybody who doesn't necessarily might not care about football as much is in on it. So every week, there's a different rivalry, but yeah, I like it. It's creative, it's fun, and it's a good trophy. I'm looking at it now. It's kind of I'm not one to but it's kind of an ugly looking trophy, no?
But that's what makes it so good.
Right, I know. It's the awkward or the sicko-ness of college football, right?
Like if I presented a lot of these trophies to you, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's a trophy. That's what a trophy's supposed to look like. If I gave you this, you'd be like, is this art? Is this a trophy? What am I looking at here? So you have to understand the deeper meaning.
Yeah.
And so many of the great Big Ten trophies, Little Brown Jug, Floyd of Rosedale, are deep-rooted in something that happened like 100 years ago that just kept happening. So now it's become accepted tradition. We don't question it.
Right.
This is new, but like if there was ever going to be a reason for a New Age trophy to exist, wouldn't it be because of social media? Like this started with a tweet that people ran with. Like Reddit had a lot to do with this becoming a really big thing. And I love that because it's a modern adaptation of what made some of these other great trophies the tradition that they are, because it was something ridiculous that happened back in 1920 or whatever.
Yeah. No, I like it. I'm with it. And, you look at the two fan bases too. Minnesota is kind of the new, I guess, Nebraska in a way where, like they're very online and very, with it and, with the memes and all that. And Nebraska was similar to that. And, when they were good back in the day. So I like it. And then, yes, the trophy is, kind of ugly enough for it to, be fun and stuff. And you talk about, the 100-year rivalries, like the old Oak and Bucket, something I look at, Indiana, Purdue. It's one of the cooler trophies in sports. And so, this broken $5 chair trophy in 100 some odd years, when they're still playing it for this thing, like, they're going to be like, oh, that's so sweet. And you'll see these guys, hoisting a golden chair and dollar bills up.
In 100 years, I'm assuming Twitter won't be around, and you'll have to explain to people no, it was a social networking site, and there was this fake account that pretended to be the coach but wasn't the coach. And that'll be fun down the line. I did want to hit one more that just missed my top 5, but was really, really great. The bronze stalk between Northern Illinois and Ball State. That's quite literally a bronze stalk of corn on a trophy. Like, lean into where you're from. There's nothing more Midwestern than corn. Like, I love it.
Yeah, Tyler. The age-old saying in Indiana, there's not just corn in Indiana. I was happy when Brady Hunt transferred to South Carolina because he was born and raised in Muncie, Indiana, at Ball State. And so I had friends that went to Ball State. I almost went to Ball State, and so I, finally got to sympathize with somebody that there is nothing in Muncie, Indiana,
but corn.
But corn. I mean, yeah, you can get up on a step stool and see the whole state when
Sure.
all the fields are plowed in the wintertime, Tyler. So the bronze stock, it's a perfect representation of, Indiana and Illinois for NIU and Ball State, and also a perfect Maction trophy, right?
Oh, yeah, that's peak Maction.
Right, exactly. Something that came right out of the MAC, so it's perfect. I think it's good ranking there for sure.
For anybody curious, dead last at number 82 is the anniversary award between Bowling Green and Kent State. It looks like a plaque that you would get for like perfect attendance. Very uncreative. It's not even a trophy. It's a plaque. Like, we can do better than this. So dead last for me.
Yeah, Tyler, I would agree. It's not the best looking trophy. The I-75, I might have ranked that higher simply because like playing for a highway itself, like you can't really the trophy isn't great,
Sure.
but playing for a highway itself is cool. And then also Bowling Green and Toledo is also. I mean, they've been playing for years. So Ohio football, it's heated for some reason.
So there's a little glimpse into my ranking list of college football rivalry trophies. If you care to see the list, maybe I'll tweet it out later or something like that. But we'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Man, we as fans just like to complain about anything, right?
Yeah.
Kansas City, they're already complaining. I'll tell you about that coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Joe Machico on your Friday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Ed and Joe Machika wrapping up our number 2 here on your Friday. Joe, would you agree that there are a lot of fan bases out there that have gotten really, really spoiled by success?
Yeah, big time, Tyler. Big time.
And I feel like we as fans always, no matter how good or bad our teams are always looking for something to complain about. That's just kind of the nature of being a fan. But, you know, when you look at teams that are at the respective top of their sports and you see their fans complaining about anything, you're just kind of like, really, dude? Like, you've been having it good for a very, very long time. I don't think you have the grounds to complain about these kind of things necessarily.
Yeah, most definitely. Like there's certain fan base out there. I mean, the Yankee fans. Whenever Yankee fans complain about anything, it's like, all right, come on. It's like you had Ruth and Gehrig, and obviously you didn't watch them play, but I mean, come on.
I feel like Kansas City is starting to trickle into that territory now.
Right.
And I think this can be exemplified perfectly by Kansas City radio host Kevin Keitzman the other day from KCMO, where he was talking on his podcast. And he said point blank, Patrick Mahomes is fat.
Meanwhile, vacation photos are popping up of Patrick Mahomes, and he's fat. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to tell you the truth. That's why you hit the play button. He's an embarrassment. You're a $500 million quarterback. You've made all these comments in the offseason that we're going to do our talking on the field. We got our butts kicked in the Super Bowl. We're coming back with a vengeance. Dude, you're fat. Your belly would be fat at my pool, hanging out with us, 60-year-olds, okay? My skin's flabbier than yours. I get it. Stop. Stop the fast food. Do a sit-up. Do something. Yeah, I'm sure he's worked out and strengthened his arm, and he's done all kinds of different things, quarterback things, but there's no training to this man. I don't understand it. He's not a kid anymore. You can't just run through your NFL career eating Taco Bell all the time and door dashing fried chicken, which he loves, from that one place over in Leawood where he gets it all the time. It's time, dude. It's time.
Now, let's keep in mind, he's not talking about a quarterback that just came off of, a season where his team went 5-12 and he was struggling to keep a starting job. He's talking about Patrick Mahomes, who just led the Kansas City Chiefs to their 3rd straight Super Bowl after winning the prior 2, and is always in the mix talking about as one of the, if not the best players in the entire league. Yeah, last year it wasn't his best year statistically, but it's still pretty darn good. Like, this now where Kansas City has to hate everything that's happening to them to play like the victim, I hate to see that.
It's actually kind of unreal what Chiefs fans are doing. Tyler, I don't know if this guy is, understands how professional athletes work. Like Patrick Mahomes has probably been in the offseason drinking his Coors Lights and just going with it, and he will take off that weight very quickly. Like once he gets back into camp and everything, it gets going. Like these athletes put on and can lose weight at an efficient rate. And then also, like, I don't know if this guy, like, I think Patrick Mahomes has plenty of people to motivate him. Like, he does not need a Kansas City radio host to try to say, read him the riot act and try to get him to play good football. Like, I think he's got enough people in his corner to get the job done. So I don't know. Maybe, like, I know complaining about the Heat and saying that the Heat was too much for you, making you say some things is not really, have any grounds. But, I mean, that Heat in Kansas City must have been getting to this guy or something, man.
I don't know. This is the first time I've ever heard of this guy, and he certainly sparked a lot of controversy. But, like, when you think about it, like, the quarterback is not typically the guy on an NFL roster that's usually, like, chiseled out of stone, right? Those are usually, like, your wide receivers, your linebackers, your running backs. Like, there's plenty of quarterbacks in the NFL that have the dad bod, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And same thing goes for complaining about Luka Doncic's weight, right?
Yeah.
Like, Luka's going to go out there and give you 30, 40 still at, a bigger, size because, Luka likes to have fun, and rightfully so. And for basketball, maybe he's coming to training camp and maybe even into the season a little still out of shape, but he's going to get it back, right? Within a couple games, couple weeks, you start to see Luka looking like himself, and it's back to normal. So I don't know. It's this Heat in Kansas City must be getting to.
If Mahomes throws 20 interceptions this year and the Chiefs miss the playoffs, okay, we can start talking about things going wrong. You're still looked at as the best all-around organization in the NFL right now. You're going to be fine. Like, Mahomes is going to be in shape when the season starts. Like, you have nothing to worry about. So please, I hate like this almost crafting yourself to be a victim in some way that a lot of fan bases do.
It's wild to be complacent at the top, or as complacent at the top as Chiefs fans are. And I guess, to make up narratives and to say that everyone's against us, and yeah, rightfully so. I would say the league is turning against the Chiefs, or Chiefs fans, if you will, but just simply because of the amount that they're complaining while at the top. Like, I mean, at the least, Patriots fans, you kind of knew what you were getting into because that's just Boston, and they tend to be, louder and whatnot. But even then, like, it wasn't, I mean, there's the witch hunt and the deflate gate, sure, but like I don't know. It was I didn't necessarily seem as bad with the Chiefs and Mahomes.
So
and all that.
I'm sure this guy will have plenty more to complain about as the season rolls along. So I don't know. We'll see if he says anything else controversial.
Plenty of clicks.
I'm sure he will. All right, Joe, appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
That'll do it for the Extra Point. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the Game. 11 o'clock on your Friday morning. Welcome in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you here, wrapping up your week. Chris, you took your hat off. I was going to tease Wes and say it was Backwards Hat Friday, but now you let me down.
I actually don't even remember that I did that. I had my sunglasses on top of my head, and I was trying to get the headphones on, and it was kind of wonky, so I guess I just ended up taking off the whole disguise there.
I was going to make Wes feel left out for a second.
Wonky.
Oh, well.
I've been using that word a lot. Is that God, I hope that's not an old man word.
I feel like I use it from time to time.
I thought it was funny.
Okay. Yeah.
Do your kids look at you funny when you say it or something?
I don't think
I just made fun of them.
Okay. Fair enough. End of the week, of course, next week is SEC Media Days. I'll be out there, and hopefully we'll have some good interviews and content from, obviously, Gamecock football. We'll hear from Coach Beamer probably in the end of this hour time slot coming up on Monday. Really about 11:45 is when he's set to take the stage. So plenty to hear from coming up next week. But, of course, got to kick things off as always. It is 51 days until South Carolina takes on Virginia Tech in Atlanta. You guys gave me a couple of different names yesterday for jersey number 51. I settled on Norris Lambert. Are we ready for today's trivia question?
So it's an Oris Lambert trivia question?
It's an Oris Lambert trivia question.
Oh.
You
Wes,
you telepathically thought of this guy together, so I figured why not?
A lot of pressure on Wes, though, because,
Is this a favorite of yours, Wes?
No, I haven't, I guess because I brought it up, but I haven't done any other research on this. So.
This one might be difficult then.
Oh, God. All right, cool. Hit us with it. Let's go.
Oris Lambert in his South Carolina career had 2 interceptions. Can you name the opponents they were against?
Good Lord.
Now, let me say, I do feel like
one of them was pretty significant. I will say that could stand out as a big moment.
I have one
I don't remember.
I have a team in my head that he might have done it against, but I feel like I don't know if it's just I made it up in my brain, type of moment.
Yeah, I feel like I'm actually having a similar moment right now. Is the team you're thinking of Florida or no?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because was it Chris Tucker that had the...
Oh.
Was that a
one of
fumble
my favorite
or a
moments ever?
Batted ball interception?
It was a batted ball interception.
And he went stumbling, bumbling...
Rumbling.
Yeah.
2005 Florida game. Game.
Yeah. Beat the Gators at Williams-Brice.
That was when Chris and Stanley Doty, they would have the dances going before every third down.
Now Chris has the dance going on the video over here.
Mine's not as good.
Do the dance for us, Chris.
Mine's not as good as Chris Tucker and Stanley. I mean, I looked forward to it. Like, third down, it's coming. They were having fun out there.
Yeah.
All right, I've got to guess.
Got one?
All right.
All right.
Now
So
it's 2 opponents.
2 different teams.
These are in different seasons.
Yep.
So 2 opponents, different seasons that Oris Lambert had his 2 respective interceptions against.
Tyler, good Lord.
Let's remind. What, so
now
was this?
Again, you guys brought him up, so I'm like, all right.
Yeah. So let's just come up with some obscure.
So his last year was 05, Wes. Is that right?
According to what I looked at, it appered to be that way. Now, again, stats are a little spotty from back then, but I believe 05 was his last year.
Yeah, I think he played a pretty good bit in 04 and 05.
All right, let me
I also referenced Preston for this question to make sure I was on the right track because he was his teammate, obviously.
All right, I feel like they're both going to be wrong, but let me throw out what's in my brain. Arkansas and Clemson.
Wes, do you have a guess?
I'm going to steal Arkansas from him.
All right.
And I don't think this is right, but I'm going to throw it out there. UAB.
Whoa.
Wow. Wes got it right.
Let's go.
UAB.
UAB in 2003 was his first interception, blowout game there. Arkansas in 2005. Now, here's your bonus point. After he picked Arkansas off in 2005, Carolina scored the winning touchdown of that game, won 14-10. Who connected with who to win that game for the bonus point?
Oh, God.
I got
2005.
I got 4 players running through my head. Now, I'll let you go. You go ahead.
2005. Say that again.
So the bonus question is, after Oris Lambert got the interception in the Arkansas game in 05, Carolina immediately scored the winning touchdown of that game. Who connected with who? So this is passing play. Who
I can see it in my head.
Scored the touchdown.
I know who caught it. Spurrier used to rotate the freaking quarterback so much. I don't think it was Savell. I think it was Blake Mitchell to Kenny McKinley. It was Kenny McKinley's first career touchdown.
What, Chris? Do you have a rebuttal or a confirmation on that?
This is 2005.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the Jefferson Pilot.
All right, never mind.
One of the Jefferson Pilot Arkansas games just went through my head. But it would have had to have been a previous year because of the players that are going through my head. Yeah, Kenny McKinley is in my brain for receiver. But let me say Savell just to be different.
Was this at Arkansas?
It was at Arkansas.
Yeah, it was at Arkansas.
Yeah.
All right.
It was a post route to Kenny McKinley. 100%.
You are correct.
Mills.
Blake Mitchell to Kenny McKinley, 42 yards. South Carolina won the game 14-10. Oris Lambert picked off Casey Dick to set that up.
Now, would you be honest? The UAB poll was incredible. I'm in awe.
I didn't think you were going to get that one. And again, I had to, because again, stats are very spotty for that period of time and what's available. I asked Preston, I'm like, hey, do you remember Oris Lambert intercepting any other passes besides these two? And he said he didn't remember them. So that's what I'm going off of.
Resident statistician of that era.
Exactly. And he was literally on the team.
So, I mean, would you have gotten Arkansas, though?
No.
I feel as if I should get a half point, but I will not. Nope.
Do you want it? Should you get a half point?
Nope.
No.
No, you don't want it?
Nope.
Well, Wes has increased his lead back out to 13.5. Or 13.5 to 11.5.
I was like, wow.
He earned
what I meant. Hefty point today.
He earned a lot of points.
By the way, speaking of Blake Mitchell, Bill and I yesterday got into a debate with the listeners about guys in their respective careers at South Carolina. He was saying he felt that Blake Mitchell was very underrated for his time here. Would you guys
Bill
agree with
or
that?
the caller?
Bill was saying that Blake Mitchell maybe doesn't get the love that he deserves for the role that he played on those teams in the mid-2000s.
Blake Mitchell, when he was on and dialed in, was actually pretty incredible. The problem for Blake is it was very up and down.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I feel like he's a kind of difficult – it's kind of a difficult career to match up with other careers because it was inconsistent. You had the aspect of Spurrier, being the complete opposite of pretty much every other coach in terms of how they handle quarterbacks. Yanking them in, yanking them out, some off the field shenanigans, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like Blake was kind of fairly. I don't think he was overrated or underrated in Gamecock Nation's
Properly
mind,
rated?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I agree with your.
There was some respect for his game, right?
Because he could come out and that's the other thing, right? You kind of go, all right, Steve Spurrier, who had a knack with quarterbacks over the course of his career. You're like, do you credit Spurrier even more, or do you credit the player? Right?
Sure.
It's like Danny Warfel was not the most talented quarterback we've ever seen in the college game.
Right.
But he was incredible under Steve Spurrier. So, who do you you kind of credit both of them?
Yep.
Blake was a guy that I think had you didn't look at him and go, oh, he's kind of an average talent. Like, he actually had a lot of talent. That was the thing. And I think that's part of the reason that some people would get frustrated. When he would go, he would have these weird games. Clemson 2006. Remember, go down there, win that game. Crazy game. Jad Dean misses a field goal, wide right. You win. And then you go back and you look at Blake's stat line, and if you're like, did Blake have a good game? And you'd be like, yeah, I kind of think he did. We passed for 268 yards, but no touchdowns, 3 picks in that game. But you win.
Yeah.
Then you look at like the Liberty Bowl. He goes off for 323 and 4 touchdowns. There were other frustrating games like the 2007 season. You know, you play Arkansas. Remember, they just could not stop that Bobby Petrino Arkansas team. Could not stop them. Late, Carolina starts coming back. Blake throws for 364 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But, like, it happened later in the game. So, like, there were just a lot of, like...
He came off the bench in that game.
He came off the bench in that game. So it was like it was inconsistent for sure, but like he had his moments.
My lasting memory of Blake Mitchell is that 2007 game against Georgia, who was ranked 11 at the time.
Yep.
When they came in, beat them 16-12.
Yep.
And that game prevented Georgia from playing for the SEC and potentially a national championship that year because Georgia ended up being a much better team than Carolina did that year. But it's like, how did they lose to that Carolina team that early in the season? And like, I always had this image of Blake Mitchell in my head thinking about that game.
Cry about it, Tyler.
Yeah, it's rough. I watched that at my uncle's house on his brand new flat screen TV.
Did y'all throw something through the new TV?
I'm sure there was a lot of yelling.
That was that the interception at the end that like got kicked up into the air.
I believe so.
Is that Jasper?
I think Jasper either caught it or for some reason was 100 yards downfield defending it and kicked it up in the air.
Yep.
But that I'm trying to think of that game. That that South Carolina team is the one that started the season 6-0, right? And then just
fell off
completely.
So what
after that UNC game?
500, I think, seven wins ish. I think.
I don't think they won another game.
They didn't win another game. Okay, yeah.
Was that the game where Norwood had like? Georgia ran a play action pass where whichever Georgia quarterback
it was Stafford.
In that game, yeah, but I'm trying to am I thinking of a different game? They ran a play action pass with like a 50-step drop and Norwood just like destroyed it, you know? I think that was that game too.
That was during the stretch where South Carolina and Georgia had some all-out wars, I feel like.
But by the way, 16-12 is like quintessential Carolina, Georgia in the mid-2000s. It was always a weird, low-scoring game for whatever reason.
The 2009 game.
That was a higher-scoring one.
Yes, that game was probably... In terms of games South Carolina lost, that was actually one of the most entertaining games of all time, I feel like.
I was going through Stephon Gilmore's highlight tape, and I'd forgotten where he just completely obliterated Joe Cox when he sacked him like from behind, never saw him coming, and like broke him in half. I forgot that play, but that was pretty funny.
Was that game?
That was in that game, 09.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the Joe Cox here.
Carolina went up early. Georgia answered back, went up by 2 scores. South Carolina answered back, and then Carolina was driving at the end, and Garcia tried to flip it out to Wesley Saunders, and it got batted down, I think, final minutes of the game.
Wild game. Yeah,
crazy game.
It was definitely not par for the course of what those two teams typically did, where defense kind of shined in those games more often than not. But yeah, there's your trip down memory lane.
I got a half-point opportunity for Chris.
All right, go for it.
I need it.
All right. What's Blake Mitchell doing right now?
Oh man, I just heard this the other day.
I need it to be somewhat specific to count.
Oh no.
You can't just be like he's running a restaurant.
Yeah. And I feel like he was doing something in the past that maybe changed. I feel like did he have a construction or roofing company?
I don't know.
For some reason? Okay. I don't know.
Is that your answer?
Sure.
He is the assistant quarterbacks coach now at Wando High School.
God, you know what? I saw that recently. Yeah, because he was in business. He was doing some things, I think, up in Greenville for a while.
Missing out on all the opportunities today, Chris. We'll turn our attention to South Carolina's opponent 51 days from now, Virginia Tech. Coming up next is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Rolls along on your Friday on the game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you here on your Friday on the Game. As mentioned in the first segment there, we are only 51 days away from South Carolina kicking its season off in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies. And we haven't spent a ton of time really detailing Virginia Tech up to this point. We'll spend, plenty of time as we get closer and closer to doing that. But Wes, you put out the article on Gamecock Central yesterday of kind of taking the first look at this team. And when you kind of look at them from a 10,000-foot view, you're talking about two programs that couldn't kind of be in more different places. South Carolina, obviously on the rise, coming off a season where they're on the cusp of the playoff. Everybody's talking about them. You have a quarterback that's being looked at as a Heisman Trophy candidate, a guy in Dylan Stewart that's looked at one of the best in his respective positions. Things trending upward for South Carolina. Virginia Tech and Brent Pry in the other direction, though. He's been 500 the past couple years, under 500 last year with the loss in their bowl game, and he's going in with one of the hotter seats in all of college coaching this year, where he desperately needs to have a good season starting off with a good game against South Carolina.
Yeah, I think when you start to really dive into VT, and I think the funny thing is when you look at the perception of where they are as a program right now, it's like, hey, they are struggling, and the seat is hot. And then when you really dive into their season last year, it's like yet another example of just how thin that line is between winning and losing, and between whether you're having a successful program or not. Lots of turnover on this roster, both in terms of like the roster and the coaching staff. And so new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, lots of guys that they lost to the portal and the NFL, lots of guys that they brought in from the portal, kind of going a little bit of the South Carolina route, maybe from a couple of years ago, of going out and trying to get guys that have done it at a lower level and bringing them up to the ACC. And I was a little bit shocked when I really went back and went through their outcomes from last year. Touchdown loss in overtime to Vandy. 3-point loss to Rutgers. Most people probably remember that game at Miami where they hit the Hail Mary and it got overturned.
It was a Friday night game, I think, right?
Yeah, it was a Thursday or Friday. I remember actually sitting down and watching that game. They lose 38-34. Still don't know if that was the right call to this day. Maybe changes their season outlook, because
that was a weird situation.
They at that point become 2-3 and 0-1 in league play instead of 3-2 and a 1-0 start to league play. A touchdown loss at Syracuse in overtime, a 10-point loss to Clemson, and a 3-point loss to Duke. So the only other loss they had was in the bowl game, was a 2-touchdown loss to Minnesota. Drones, their quarterback, who is talented, did not play in those final 3 games. They got a win over Virginia. They got a win over Georgia Tech, who we found out actually, was pretty solid last year. They beat Boston College. They went all the way to Stanford and blew them out. They actually have a 20-point win over Old Dominion, which we know gave South Carolina fits.
Yes.
So I was sitting there going, man, the outside perception was like, hey, VT really struggled last year. If you really dive into their story, they didn't really. They just struggled to win some really close games, which, as we know, can be the difference in a great season and a mediocre season where people are trying to fire you. I don't know what all that means, because, again, they blew up 2 new coordinators. They blew up the roster, or just lost guys, essentially. So I don't know what you make of all that.
Well, and dude, every offseason now, or for the majority of teams, like we're even looking at Clemson, a team who has not utilized the transfer portal. They had a couple of, they believe, will be key portal acquisitions, and so you go, all right, how do those guys fit in? Most teams, South Carolina is a good example, they're going to have multiple guys that factor in. Virginia Tech, though, is an extreme example. They're bringing in, is this right, 30 transfers?
think that's right, yeah.
It's a lot.
30.
Yeah.
And some names in there. Some of the guys, aren't guys that you are on your radar as, wow, that's a huge acquisition, but they've got some guys on here that were, fairly highly thought of in the transfer portal market. So this is one of the teams coming in that, they have probably the most pressure, some of the most pressure, one of the hotter seats in the country, but they also have the most questions. And so, look, we all know game one, you're going into it, like if you're South Carolina, you're going in feeling good about some areas. You're also going in saying, hey, there's some areas we're not going to know much about until at least game one.
Yeah.
So we found out last year in the ODU game, some of the areas of concern, those are kind of concerning. They were able to obviously figure those things out as the season went on. Think about the UNC game in 23. Hey, offensive line is a big question mark. That turned out to be a nightmare start, So Virginia Tech's going to have some of those questions, but so is South Carolina. For the Gamecocks, you're thinking about not having Nikki Minwori, thinking about breaking in some talented but inexperienced linebackers, the interior of the defense. How are those going to play out versus an offense that is going to be a little different than what you're accustomed to in some ways, and a quarterback who can move and has put together some strong performances in the past?
Well, we'll expand a little bit more on Virginia Tech as we get set for South Carolina and the Hokies square off 51 days from now in Atlanta as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, rolls along here on your Friday on the Game.
All right, folks, you know what? The show brought to you by our friends over at Firehouse Subs. Lunchtime quickly approaching. Maybe it already is lunchtime for you. Why don't you try the two new Smokin' Barbecue Triple Stack sandwiches? Now, the classic you may have had last year when it was around, but it is back, and they have also added the new Carolina Gold Smokin' Barbecue Triple Stack with multiple meats, slaw, and then 2 different types of barbecue sauce you can try on there. Looking forward to trying that Carolina Gold version here soon, the next time we are at a local Firehouse Subs for a show. Great thing about it is there are 15 very convenient locations all throughout the Midlands. So no matter where you are in the Columbia area, there's a Firehouse Subs near you. So go ahead, pull out your phone, go to the laptop, hit firehousesubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app. Order your lunch now, and then it's going to be waiting for you right there on the shelf, customized exactly the way you want it. Again, Firehouse Subs, firehousesubs.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris with you on your Friday here on the game. Taking a look at Virginia Tech ahead of South Carolina season opener in 51 days in Atlanta to start the season and kind of examining this team. You mentioned, Wes, that there's a team that lost a lot of tight games against some very good teams last year that maybe skews the way you think about them depending on how you look at their record and how last season ended up. And one thing that really stands out to me, and I kind of liken them to how Oklahoma was a season ago, where, yeah, the offense was kind of a mess, but defensively very strong. They were third in scoring defense in the ACC, fifth against the pass, and sixth overall. Like, this is a team that's very capable on the defensive side of the football. A lot of those guys returning this upcoming season. And when I look at the matchup with South Carolina, where you have a lot of pieces on offense, your offensive line, the running back room that you're still maybe not entirely sure of, this is a team in Virginia Tech that could give you some problems if they can replicate the kind of defense they were playing a season ago.
Yeah, and kind of interesting that they also, again, not just changed OCs, they changed defensive coordinators as well. So I think that one of the most difficult aspects of this, and it's like this for every game one, but more so these days when you look at the fact that you have so many new players, but now add in you have a new defensive coordinator. And you don't really know what you're going to get from a guy's scheme, maybe even from year to year, but for the most part, coaches kind of major in what they're going to major in. And so there may be some twists, there may be some small details that get changed, but you at least will have an idea. In this case, you're talking about a coordinator who spent the last 4 years in the NFL as an assistant coach. So he wasn't running the defense. If you're South Carolina, you actually have to go all the way back. Palmetto State connection here. He was the defensive coordinator at Wofford. And so you're going to have some data on that. You're going to have some tape. You're going to have a feel for that. This was kind of that I feel like Wofford has run this type of defense quite a bit, that kind of three-man front where they're almost stacked together a little bit. And, you know, they were very good under him at Wofford, very good at stopping the run, very good at overall team defense. However, what you run at the FCS level against the competition you're playing there, against the schemes you're playing there, with the talent you have there, may be completely different than A, what you're going to run at the Power 4 level, and B, what you think you need to run based on the skill set of the team you just walked into. So I don't necessarily know, Chris, if this is one of those games where you're going to have a whole heck of a lot of idea of like, all right, we can draw up this play to attack this approach to, you know, this is what they do on first down. This is what they do on third and long. This is going to be more of a game where you're going to have to kind of go in with an open mind. You're going to have to make some adjustments, and you're going to have to kind of run some of your money plays, some of those plays that you feel like have an option or have kind of a have an outcome that can work against multiple defensive calls.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. No, that's a good point. You're going to have to come out and say, what do we think we're going to be really good at this year? You know, what are we going to major in? What can we go out there and feel comfortable calling, you know, against anything almost.
Yeah.
And there is going to be, there'll be some, same thing we're talking about for South Carolina. There's going to be that in-game adjustment for Virginia Tech too. South Carolina also breaking in a new offensive coordinator. Now I say new, you obviously have a lot of tape over time on Mike Shula. You know what South Carolina did last year. You know they're going to keep some elements of that. You have the bowl game that Shula called. But there'll be some new stuff, right? So it will be an interesting, I think, chess match between the teams. I ultimately think it's going to come down to exactly what you said, though. Which team can come out and kind of dictate, here's what we're doing, here's what we want to do. And then, I mean, look, game one, man, who makes the least amount of mistakes, you know? Does one team go out there and look a little bit discombobulated, game one jitters, turning the football over? I think those things in game one are probably magnified and are more prevalent than what you would see, you know, week 8, for instance.
Yeah, no doubt. I will say the other thing about Tech, other than what we talked about so far, is Kyron Drones, their quarterback. Actually started his career at Baylor. Big kid, 6'2", 235, is kind of a dual threat guy, can hurt you with his legs to an extent. Really had, and I know every quarterback is maybe like this to an extent, but for him, I thought the highs were really high last year and the lows were really low. Like the outcomes, there was a big distance between his great games and his not so great games. And so you do have a new offense coordinator coming in Philip Montgomery, who has, kind of majored in his career in the spread and kind of that Art Briles Baylor scheme. He was at Baylor when RG3 was there. Like he's had some guys who have really excelled in his schemes. And, my guess is looking at Jeron's skill set, looking at what Montgomery has had success with in the past, they're probably going to lean all into kind of the Baylor spread scheme. And so I think when you look at that, a huge key to their success this year is going to be, can you unlock the drones at his best as opposed and eliminate some of him at his worst.
And I think it was Jack and I that talked to one of their beat writers a couple months back, just kind of previewing opponents for the summer. And that's what I gathered when they talk about Kyron Drones is like, this guy has a really high ceiling, a lot of potential for what he's capable of. Unfortunately, his time at Virginia Tech so far, that's not really been unlocked and realized. And again, like you said, with the success Philip Montgomery's had in the past, you certainly see a blueprint for how that could come to fruition. And much like Lenore Sellers, there's a lot of new things around him. That running back room has been revamped, a lot of wide receivers coming in from the portal, redoing their offensive line. So it's going to be a lot on him, much like Sellers, to kind of control where this offense goes early on in the season. And again, it seems like a guy with a lot of potential that if they can unlock that can be very, very dangerous.
Yeah, he's shown a lot of that potential. I think there's been inconsistencies. And so that for Virginia Tech, that's going to be the biggest job for Philip Montgomery, who has worked with some good quarterbacks in his time in college in the game. Can you give him a structure to where you're eliminating those mistakes? And look, in a different way, that's the conversation with South Carolina Mike Shula, Lenore Sellers. He's obviously more established. He's got Heisman buzz coming into the season. Drones really doesn't. But for Sellers, you're looking, okay, what's the next step for him as a player? Because that's actually the exciting thing. There's actually a higher ceiling. There's more potential for him to reach, particularly just reading the field and in the passing game. And so, that's that's something I think people are going to be looking at in this game too. There's no shortage, I think, of storylines to watch in this game. There's one more quick point, guys, too, just on Brent Pry and Virginia Tech. And Will Helms pointed this out. He does a lot of analytics stuff for Gamecock Central. He calls Brent Pry the worst close game coach in the history of college ball. 0 for 12 lifetime and one-score games versus Power 4.
Ooh.
And 1 and 13 overall. He says he's the only coach ever with one or fewer wins and at least 5 career one-score games. Well, now, does that mean anything for this year? If you're South Carolina, you'd prefer it to not be that close anyway. But just an interesting data point.
Yeah, and what the line on this is 9.5, 10. Last time I checked a few weeks back.
Yep.
So again, Virginia Tech team that's always going to be capable of making it tight, making it close, and again with how much is new on both these teams, there's no telling what we're going to see coming up in 51 days. Obviously, it's going to be exciting. You're going to be and one unique thing about this game that we haven't really talked about a lot. You're the center stage of college football when this game is happening. It's opening weekend, Sunday, middle of the day. Miami, Notre Dame end up playing that night. But for that 3.5 hours, everybody's looking at you. So when you talk about making an impression, not only on the greater country, a greater part of the country when it comes to this program, but like Lenore Sellers and the opinion people have of him for the season is going to all be sparked by what happens, again, center stage in Atlanta with all eyes of the college football world on you for the middle of that day on Sunday.
I thought those analytics guys thought that it just evens out on close games.
What do you mean? Like,
it just evens out over time?
Over time?
Like, there's no...
Like, eventually you're going to start winning those games?
Like basically, maybe I'm wrong. I just thought the analytics guys thought, like, close games pretty much eased back to being 50-50 over time.
It might.
Maybe.
So far for him, it hasn't. You know, and again, that might not mean a thing for this year. But
don't let that start in week 1.
It does go to your point, though, Wes, that, like, man, they had a lot of close games last year, and they lost. South Carolina had a lot of close games last year. They won most of them.
Sure.
You know? So, and then they had a couple very close losses that ended up keeping them out of the playoff.
Yep. So, again, that game coming up 51 days from now, 3 o'clock on that Sunday in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour and the week. A couple recruiting notes to touch on as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along here on the game.
All right, everyone. Guys out there, if you're having trouble with some symptoms like low energy, gain some weight that you don't want on, if you're losing muscle, if you're not sleeping well at night, one option that you have, a great option, is to reach out to our friends over at Game Day Men's Health. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com or 803-265-3161. Now, you've heard me say in the past, they are different than a lot of other places that help treat men. They have same-day appointments available for fast, convenient care. If you go check out their clinic, conveniently located in Northeast Columbia near I-77 and Two Notch Road, that's 115 Atrium Way, you'll see they've got comfortable man cave-style clinics, complete with TV and refreshments. So you can get your results in just around 15 minutes, give you a consultation, in-house treatment plans that are personalized for you. They're going to follow up. They're going to do a great job for you. 803-265-3161 or GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, wrapping up your week here on your Friday on the game. Couple of recruiting notes wanted to hit on before we get out of here. There are a couple of commitments coming up later today that South Carolina is in the mix for, between Samari Matthews, the four-star corner out of North Carolina, as well as J.B. Shabazz, the four-star offensive tackle also out of North Carolina, though according to what you guys have written here as of late, doesn't seem like that it's necessarily going to go Carolina's way maybe for both of these guys. But, things can change. Things can happen at the 11th hour.
Yeah, as we've seen, the caveat, especially these days, you have to put is, man, these things can change very quickly. As of right now, especially with Shabazz, it seems like he is probably headed to Tennessee. As of right now, this exact second, unless something's changed, does seem like Smoke is probably going to commit to Texas today. We'll certainly keep tracking that and see if anything changes. Check that out, GamecockCentral.com. But I think the fascinating thing with Samari Smoke Matthews, Chris, is that I don't necessarily think this is one where Carolina's going to give up just because he's all of a sudden on Texas's commit list.
Yep.
This just feels like, and the other side, hey, if for whatever reason he woke up today and was like, I want to be a Gamecock, I don't know that Mark Orfe and Texas are going to give up either. Like this is more some recruitments you kind of just feel like, hey, that one's not over even with the pledge today, and this one feels that way. So we will certainly be keeping an eye on it today. We will certainly continue to keep an eye on it moving forward.
Yeah, you'd love to have a guy like him who has been from North Carolina, one of the top corners in the country, a long-time target, and you've invested a lot of time and resources into him in terms of recruiting him. And so I'm not in any way diminishing the announcement that's coming tonight and just saying, oh, it's not important one way or another. You'd love to go ahead and get him committed. Contrary to popular belief now, there's kind of this narrative now, also the NIL era, nobody sticks. It doesn't even matter where people commit. The numbers still say that the majority of prospects that commit to a school do stick. Now, are there a lot of decommitments? Absolutely. I mean, it's a crazy world. I mean, they still go back and forth. Even guys that end up sticking, other schools make it tough. So you would love to go ahead and get Smoke Matthews on the commitment list tonight. But as you just said, Wes, if he commits to South Carolina, people would be celebrating. Texas and others are going to continue to loom. So you just apply that same logic to the Gamecocks. I don't think this thing will be over by any means. The more important thing is who do you have on your commit list in December when these guys sign. And I'm with you, Wes. I think Texas is the team to beat still for Smoke, sitting here at 11:50 a.m. Eastern time on the show. And I think that's the way it's probably going to go tonight. But I also think this is one that we're going to continue to track for, up until December most likely, unless given a reason not to.
Well, and off of that, we know, of course, until those guys sign on the dotted line on early signing day, nothing's officially official. So it is significant when you have a guy like Aiden Harris yesterday, who again recently committed alongside of his brother for the 2026 class, to put out there that, hey, I'm shutting my recruitment down, which again, things can still happen between now and December, but that's the best indication you can get from somebody that they are as committed as they can be until they do sign their name on that paper coming up in a couple months.
Yeah, and something here that Chris has written about, and we've talked about a little bit on the big picture here, is the importance not just of today's date, but the importance with a lot of these guys of August 1st. And that is when schools can present their rev share documents to the players.
That's when Auburn's going to suddenly start taking off with their recruiting this year, right?
Supposedly, allegedly. But and you may be saying, what does that mean? What does that matter? The rev share stuff, and it can't be signed yet. It'll be signed in December, but it can be officially presented. That stuff, once signed, is guaranteed money. Whereas, so if I'm, for example, offering a cornerback, $700,000, $750,000, $800,000 a year, how much of that am I guaranteeing out of my rev share?
Mm-hmm.
How much of that am I saying, oh, you can make this with above the line NIL. Oh, I'm sure we can make that happen. We can make that work for you.
That's not a guarantee.
And so how does that factor into recruitments? And how does this latest guidance that just came out this week, making life difficult on collectives to sort of just maneuver that money around, how much does that factor into if you're a young man making a decision right now? Yeah. You know, how much guidance are you actually getting? Are you gonna, or do you blindly believe a coaching staff on some of this stuff? Or are you more along the lines of, no, I want to see this contract. I'm going to have a lawyer redline everything, and I want guaranteed money.
Yeah. Yeah. It will be, and we can, I think we'll talk about this more this week, but the College Sports Commission's latest guidance, it is, I mean, the purpose is very clear. They are trying to completely eliminate collective deals unless it's like a pass-through, like they're working as a marketing agency. Of course, many people think that strategy is not going to ultimately work. Sure. They've gotten a lot of pushback. I tend to think that people will figure it out, but you're right, Wes. If I'm a prospect, I don't want to hear, how are you planning on, or an agent or a family member, I don't want to hear, how are you planning on doing this, and it's, we'll just figure it out. There's a lot of that going on in the space. Here's your number. And some people are diving a little bit deeper into, okay, cool, good number, cool, sounds great, but what does that mean? How are you going to do it? Some people are a little bit more tuned into that than others.
So are we expecting just a flood of national commitments once we get into the month of August, and those things can be guaranteed and the numbers can be more real?
I mean, weirdly enough, I'd have to go back and look. A lot of the guys are still going ahead. July has been the busiest month of commitments. Which I'm looking right now. This is a kid Caroline's not involved with, but this DQ Forkpaw, down to a bunch of major players, Blue Bloods. Report right now from Chad Simmons. He will no longer commit on July 12th. If I made it this far and I was a recruit, dude, what's 3 more weeks? Yeah. Like I would wait till August 1 and be like, what y'all got for me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the strategy I would take.
But,
yeah,
I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, Caroline's done pretty good.
7:30 tonight.
7:30 is Smoke Matthews.
Late one. But it's been a good summer so far, Carolina. And I don't know, maybe something will change the 11th hour with these guys today, and we can add some more to that class. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Up next, halftime show, Bill Gunter. I'll be out at Media Days next week, and hopefully we'll have some great guests joining us as well. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour here in the game.
All right, as we close out the show here, I'll tell you about one of our great partners, longtime partners here on the show, Integrated Media. Michael, Nathan, their team do an amazing job with anything you may need at your home or even